up, guys? My name is Brooklyn and welcome to my channel. So this is my first video and I thought it would be fun to kick things off with NaNoWriMo 2018. So this video is essentially going to be a how-to to be successful at NaNoWriMo. So the whole goal of the challenge is to complete a first draft of your novel within the month of November with a minimum word count of 50,000 words. So it seems like a lot, but if you have a plan going forward, it's actually really doable. So today we're going to be talking about how to make a book Bible. All right, so this is my personal book Bible. I have it broken up into 3 sections, which are the outline of the whole story, the characters, and world building. All right, so let's start with the outline. So my outline is essentially a generalization of the whole story. It's a quick summary. Here's where the character starts, here's where the conflict in the middle is, here's where they're ending at the end of the story. And then I broke it down chapter by chapter. So keeping that in mind, I have my outline structured with introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, conclusion. You may remember this from 5th grade English class. So my introduction is about 3 chapters long. It's just introducing my character, essentially establishing the world that they're in, the time, what's going on, a brief issue that's gonna come up later, so essentially setting up that conflict. So the rising action is going to be the longest of the sections, or at least that's what I have found with outlining my own novel. So rising action is when my protagonist arrives at the destination from the introduction. It's a further introduction into the world, as well as establishing some more of the world rules, adding some characters, fleshing it out, and establishing the conflict. So your climax is going to be the crux of the story. It's when everything happens. It's when, you know, it gets real. But you don't want your climax to be 1 chapter because that's kind of like, I read the whole book for this. This was a waste of my time, probably your time writing it. This was really dull. Why did I bother? So my personal climax is 3 different chapters. It's the culmination of everything that happened. So I have task 1, task 2, task 3 in a tournament. I know it sounds spoilery, but don't worry, my book's not gonna be out for a while, so you don't have to worry about it. You're probably not even gonna remember that I mentioned it. But if you do, there's a tournament in the story, so you know, prepare. So I have the 3 chapters, like I said, task 1, task 2, task 3. They build up to each other. Essentially, they're like a mini story in and of itself. So the climax is really that 3rd part of the climactic trio of chapters, where everything just really gets real and you really test your character's mettle as a person and just hope that they, as their own person, come out of this like alive, or at least, you know, maimed but still kicking. So your falling action is going to be longer than the climax, but not as long as the rising action. In rising action, you were establishing the characters, the world, and the tension, and the upcoming conflict. In the climax, you handled the conflict that you've been establishing in your rising action. So your falling action is essentially going to be just handling the fallout from the climax. You're not really establishing much else. And then you're gonna wrap up with your conclusion. My conclusion is about 2 chapters, although knowing me and my long-windedness, I'll probably stretch it out to 3 just because I like some drama. And so you can, at the end, obviously tie everything up into a neat bow, or just leave it like a messily wrapped present that you know you're going to unwrap again? Who knows? I went to school for words. So your climax, like I said, you can either cut it off and have a standalone book, or you obviously cliffhanger, make it a series, duology, whatever you really feel is best. Okay, so your second section is going to be your characters. So mine is set up into 3 different subsections for the character section of the book Bible. Section 1, primary characters. 2 is secondary characters. 3 is tertiary characters. So if somebody in your story doesn't make it into one of those 3 buckets, primary, secondary, and tertiary, they're probably not important enough for you to bother to even describe. And if you waste the time to describe them to me as I'm reading this, I'm gonna think that they're really important. And if you're trying to like red herring MacGuffin me, now I'm just annoyed, because if you have a cast big enough for all 3 of these buckets to be filled and you still have this person, now you're taking up too much brain space, and I, as your reader, cannot keep track of all of these people. So, like I said, buckets. If they're not 1, 2, or 3, just cut him out. I mean, you can mention him, but don't tell me about, you know, Sally down the street's hair is blonde and she's got heterochromia with one brown eye, one green eye, because I'm gonna think this is really important, and then when Sally never comes up again, I'm gonna be really disappointed that I devoted the brain space to memorizing that she had one brown eye and one green eye. So don't bother. Don't waste anybody's time with that information. It's just annoying. So in my character section, there's just a couple of things that I go over to make sure everything stays consistent throughout the story. Hair color, eye color, skin. I like to talk about, like, you know, are they pale? Are they freckled? Are they really tan? Like, do they have great skin, bad skin, pockmarked? Are they scarred? That kind of thing. Height, tall, short, average, that kind of deal. Body build, are they muscular? Are they athletic? Are they like The Rock? Or are we talking, you know, Mr. Rogers here? I just want to feel for how they look compared to their peers. You know, are they a soldier who's like stalwart, stocky? Do we have like a Gimli situation going on? Just a quick, brief type explanation of what they look like. I also find that helps not only the reader kind of picture them in your mind, but as a writer, remember what everybody looks like. You would be surprised how many times I've said somebody has blue eyes and then like 100 pages later, suddenly they have hazel. So just keep that in mind. It helps you to keep consistent. And then the last section that I like to include with the characters is the personality. So characters are obviously dynamic, they're people, they change from point A to point triangle in your story, and you're going to want to, you know, have that obvious organic change from where they started out. Otherwise, it's kind of a dull story if they don't ever change. But you don't want an Alice Cooper from Riverdale situation where every couple of chapters they're suddenly like drastically a different person, because you can't say, you know, little Billy's really bad at math and then a chapter later, you know, he's running NASA, because that's not who you have established in your introduction. You told me he's bad at math and he's failing geometry. You can't turn him into Einstein that quickly. I'm gonna need character growth. So for my personal character, I like to establish that, you know, he's smart, he's loyal, he's kind, but, you know, he may not always have the best grasp of how to act in social situations because he spent so much time alone. So obviously, organically, as he makes friends, he's going to get better and better at it. But it's not like in 2 chapters, he's suddenly running for class president. Well, it's medieval times, so I don't think they had class presidents, but that's not the point. The point is, he's not going from a wallflower to Mr. Congeniality that quickly. You need to just establish who they are as people and kind of keep their personality consistent. All right, so the last and most in-depth section of your book Bible is going to be world building. If you are writing a contemporary novel, nonfiction, or historical fiction, you really don't need to, you know, worry about it so much because the world is established. It's us. This is our world. We know we know the rules. Maybe just do some research, you know, if you're talking about the Roman Empire, maybe get your ADs and BCs straight, that kind of deal. But other than that, like, you don't really need to establish too much because we already inhabit the world you're talking about. I think as human beings, we probably have a firm grasp of what's happening. But if you're gonna be writing something like fantasy or sci-fi, we're really gonna need to know about the world because we don't live in this world. There aren't dragons here, and as far as I'm aware, Skynet hasn't taken over, so we're not living in some post-apocalyptic sci-fi, you know, drama that you've written. So just help us as the reader jump into this, and that's where your world building section is going to come into play. Okay, so when it comes to world building, you're gonna wanna think about a couple of things. So let's start off with government. What is the government of the world that we're in? Is it a monarchy? Is it a republic? Is it an empire? Is it democracy? Really kind of delve into each of those so that we know, you know, what's going on? How does the government interact? How do the people feel about the government? When was it established? That kind of thing. All right, next up, you're gonna wanna talk about religion. Some people shy away from it and never mention it, and it just seems like a religionless world where everybody prays to science, which could be fine if you're doing like an Aldous Huxley Brave New World type deal. Maybe actually roll with that. That sounds pretty interesting. Otherwise, maybe talk about it a little bit. Some people go to the opposite extreme and come up with this whole system of belief that's never gonna come up in your story. So I want you to understand that the point of your book Bible is for you, the author, to know what's going on and to understand what's happening in your world, but this information isn't necessarily going to come up in the book. It just helps you flesh it out so it seems more real, more deep, and more textured and layered, and you can really peel back that onion should the time ever come up but it's just more something for you to know so that you can understand your own world better, and then thus impart that information and that like feeling of a lived in, real, organic world to the reader. So when it comes to religion, you want to think, is there a separation of church and state? Is the church over here? Is the state over here? Are they at odds? Are they best friends? Is this a Roman Empire situation where, you know, there was their temples that kind of interacted with the emperor? Or are we going straight up Holy Roman Empire where we've got the Pope just in charge of everything? Is this like a Henry VIII situation where the monarch is the head of the church and he can start making up rules? You know, really just establish, how do those two things interact? How do they interact with the people of your story? What's going on there? Why are things like that? Just flesh it out a little bit so that we can understand what's going on. All right, lastly, there's 5 things that you as a writer will always need to remember when you're doing world building so that it feels more rich and textured and just like you know what's going on and you're not making it up as you go. You're gonna wanna remember those 5 things are who, what, where, when, why. All right, so obviously your who is gonna be who's inhabiting the story. That's your cast of characters. Is this like a Walden deal where it's one person out in the woods just narrating what's going on as they've broken from society? Or are we having a Game of Thrones situation where there's 40 people running all over the place doing X, Y, and Z on multiple continents and we don't know what's happening? That's your who. Just establish the who. Who are these primary players in the story? What's going on with them? Let us know. Your what is, you know, well, it sounds weird to say your what is the what, but your what is essentially the what. What is everybody doing? Like, what's going on? You know, if there's point A to point C, what's that point B that your character needs to pass through to get to his end point? All right, where is the 3rd section? That's probably one of the most important. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it temperate? Is it in the mountains? Is it in a valley? Are we having a water world situation? Is everybody on boats? Why are they on boats now? I'm really curious about the story that you're writing. Is it 10,000 leagues under the sea? Are you down in the depths of the ocean? That's your where. Your where is going to play into so much of your story. Your where is like, mind blown, probably one of the most important things because your where is definitely going to have a big impact on the economics and the government. If it's a temperate zone, you're not exporting coconuts. So just keep that in mind. All right, when is also probably one of the most important aspects of writing your story. Is it in the past? Is it in the now? Or is it in the future? So if it's in the past and everybody's, you know, on horseback on cobblestone roads, you know, my lord, my ladying with their gas lamps, they're probably not gonna have cell phones unless there's like some huge disparity between communication and transportation technologies and your government's just really focused on people being able to send messages not by owl or raven. So you wanna just keep with the time period that you're setting the story in. If it's a contemporary, make sure that you're using contemporary technology and contemporary vernacular, otherwise it's just gonna sound really, really awkward when your characters speak. And if it's in the future, how far in the future? Is it like a year from now where it's essentially contemporary, but because you're writing it in 2018 and the story's in 2019, you're like, ooh, future, mind blown. No, that's still the modern contemporary time period. That doesn't qualify as the future. But if you're gonna have a situation where it is in the future, at least give your reader like a relative understanding of how far in the future we're going. Is this like a nearby future that we as ourselves right now can prevent? Is this 20 years in the future? Or is this like, you know, the year 3000 where we're all floating around on hoverboards, you know, like the ones we were promised by Back to the Future, still waiting online. So how far in the future are we? Are there robots? Do people have bionic limbs? Are we all cyborgs? Like, let us know. That's a huge part of the story is your when. But make sure once you have established your when, you stay in that when, unless there's time travel, in which case by all means, pop over to different whens. But if you're going with a straight up story with no weird time travel or anything like that, or alternate universes or whatever you want to do, stick to your when. Make sure the things you're talking about aren't anachronistic because that gets really annoying. And just be genuine to the time period that you're writing in. And finally, the why. Why is all of this happening? Why do I, as the reader, care about what is happening in this story? I want to be emotionally invested in a story. I want to know, why does everybody want the Philosopher's Stone? why did they build the wall on the north to keep out the wildlings? Like, I want to know. So that's the why. Why is this happening? Why are you bothering to write this story, and why have I bothered to read it? Establish a firm why. Otherwise, it's just a story about, you know, your fictional people meandering around doing absolutely nothing. And if I wanted to see that, I would go to Starbucks and just watch people meander around and do absolutely nothing. It would be just as interesting, and I wouldn't waste my time and money with your book. So just establish that why, stick to the why, make it like a genuine why, like, you know, it's plausible. People would be upset about that. There would be a call to action, and, you know, thus your story would take place. So like I said, who, what, where, when, why. Alright guys, so I hope this information about book Bibles and how to go about creating your own book Bible for NaNoWriMo is pretty helpful. Like I said, this is my first video. I'm going to continue on doing a writing vlog throughout the month of November to chronicle my personal progress on NaNoWriMo, and I hope to hear from you down in the comment section to see how you are doing. I'll check back in a few days with a word count. We'll see if I made progress, if I hit that, you know, writer's block that we all dread, where the, you know, crushing silence really weighs down on you and you realize, why am I doing this? But hopefully none of us get to that point and we all have a smashing NaNoWriMo. Follow along with your book Bible, and at least you'll stay moderately on track and hopefully avoid any ridiculous tangents that make your plot muddled and really, really, really difficult to get through. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button down below, hit the bell for notifications so you know when new videos are posted. If you want to know more about my NaNoWriMo journey, about the details of how to create a pretty in-depth book Bible, or you just want to follow along with my writing progress throughout all of this and any of my upcoming book reviews, you can click the link in the description down below to subscribe to my blog. You can also follow me on Instagram, or if you're one of those people who still has a Facebook, you can click the link down below to be notified there. Thank you guys, and see you next time.